and environmental learning. So for the next few weeks, I'm going to be taking you through a couple engaging and fun learning activities that you and your kids can do to get outdoors and learn about being outside and about our natural environment. Today I'm going to be taking you through different types of food dyes and how we can use nothing but old food scraps to create really beautiful colored pieces of fabric. This is an excellent activity to help teach children about natural resources and creating dyes without using any harsh chemicals. It's a really good activity for toddlers and preschoolers, but because it is tactile learning, it's great for any age. As well, it also incorporates textile learning, so it's a great way to teach our kids about how we get fabrics using nothing but our natural environment and our outdoor resources. And just to be very clear, this only uses food scraps, so it doesn't waste anything that could have been used for food. So before we get started, here are some things that we're going to need for this activity. We're going to need 3 medium bowls. It can be any material, but it's best if you have something that might get a little bit stained and you don't mind. The next thing that we're going to need is our food scraps. So I have old purple cabbage peels, old coffee grinds, and old beet juice with some skins in there. Next, we're going to need some water. You want it to be warm, but not too warm, so we don't want to burn our hands. A little bit of salt, because we're going to help use that to make the dye really stick to our fabric. And last but not least, we need our pieces of fabric. So you just want scraps like this. They need to be light colored so that the dyes can really show up on them. It can be anything that you have at home, whether it's just old t-shirts or rags, but the best materials are natural materials like linen, cotton, or silk. So to start, we're going to be pouring some water into each of our 3 bowls. You just want to do a little bit, just enough to cover your grounds or your beet slaw or your cabbage, whatever it is that you have, and turn it into a nice watery mixture that you can submerge your fabric in. Again, you want it to be warm to make those dyes really leach out of our scraps, but not too warm because no one wants to burn their hands. Next, we're going to add a little bit of salt. Again, this will just help the dye really stick to your fabric. So for our first piece of fabric, we're just going to take one of our scraps. I just cut this up from an old Halloween costume, so again, anything you have around your house. And I'm going to put it all the way into our mixture of our beet juice. So you can use a spoon for this if you don't really like getting messy, but I think it's fun to get your hands right in there. So really get your hands in there, and you're going to really mix it around and make sure it's all the way covered. Next, we'll take our second piece of fabric, and we're going to put this into our coffee grinds. So same thing, really get it in there, get it all the way under, and you can really feel the coffee grinds on your fingers. So it's a really fun way to play with your kids. And last, you might have to rinse off your fingers in between. We're going to take our final piece of fabric, and we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to fold it into a little neat square, and we're going to take some elastics, and we're going to tie it off. So I'm using elastics because they're easiest, but you can also use anything you have at home. If you have string or twine or even old shoelaces, any of those things will work as long as they're tied tightly. You're going to tie them about every hand width or so, because this is going to create different patterns on our cloth when we take it out of our dye. Once you have them tied nice and tight, we're going to do the same thing as before, and we're just going to put it into our mixture and make sure it's really submerged in that water, getting all the way in. See if you can soak it as much as possible. Mix it up, get your hands dirty. You want that cloth to absorb as much of the dye as possible. And if you want to go one step further, what you can do, find a rock or two and just weigh it down so it stays in that water when you leave it. We're going to do the same thing with all of our cloths. Same thing, we're going to get them nice and wet just to make sure they absorb as much color as possible. You You don't want them floating up to the top like we have with this one here. So same thing. Get your hands right in there. You can feel the coffee grinds. Got some nice tactile learning going on there. And when you're all finished mixing it, make sure it's weighed down with some stones, and then we can take our break. All right, so hi guys, welcome back. I hope you had fun waiting outside for our food dyes to do their thing and soak up all their colors. So now that we've waited for at least an hour, we're going to take our scraps out of our water and see what they look like. Right in the center here, we do have an old white piece of fabric just to kind of show that contrast. So first, we're going to take our rag out of our beet juice. So if you can see, it's a nice light pink compared to the white. It's going to look a little gross right now because it's still wet, so it looks more like a rag. But once it dries, it'll be really pretty, and you can use it for anything from a doll's blanket to a little flag on a ship, whatever you want to get creative with. For our next one, our coffee grinds. So again, when it dries, the coffee grounds are going to fall off. They won't be sticking to the fabric anymore. But if you can tell, it's like almost a nice khaki color, so it looks more tan than it does white. And last but not least, here's hoping this works, we have our one that we put our ties on. So we're just going to take off our ties, put them to the side, and when you're done, you should have some blue and white, almost wave patterns running through it. That'll show up better once it's dried. So it's a little hard to see right now just because they are still wet, but if you can tell, we have a nice pretty lavender from our cabbage peels, a light pink from our beets, our regular white one that we never dyed with anything, and then our tan colored one from our coffee grinds. So if you can tell, they're all different, they're all pretty, and they all just need to dry before we play with them. So one more thing that we're going to add to this activity before we finish up for today is just, if you wait a little bit, we left our fabrics out in the sun. They're all dried and beautiful now. You can tell that depending on how long I left them in wet dyes, they're all different colors, so lots of choices for us. The last thing though that we're going to add to this activity is we're going to turn these into a little bit of a canvas. So I'm just going to find, in our beautiful rock garden, a nice rock that I think would make a good paintbrush. Got my little tube of paint over here, and we're going to pick the fabric that we like best. So I really like this nice coffee ground one that we did earlier today. So I'm going to dip my rock in some paint. I'm just going to make some splotches. Maybe I want to add some stripes. It's whatever you and your children want to do. This is painting. It's creative whether you do it inside or outside, so everything is better outside. So take it, have fun with it. You have different fabrics to experiment on. Maybe grab some different rocks or colors. And when you're all done, what you can do is you can maybe find an old embroidery hoop or maybe a frame around your house that you just have lying around. You can put your little rock paintings in there, and you have a complete handmade gift, or maybe something for yourself that you made all the way down from the dyes from our plants to our rock painting. That is everything for our video. Thank you so much for coming and watching and doing some activities with us. I hope you try this one at home. This activity is a great way for you and your little ones to get outside and try experimenting with some of our natural materials like rocks, plant dyes, natural fabrics, things that we've sort of gotten away from. So great way to get outside and engage using our outdoor environment. It's also a fun way to experiment and do some open-ended learning as we have different results every time we do it, making it something that we can do time and time again and keep expanding our learning with our children. There will be a page posted below with different food scraps and connections to the kindergarten curriculum for Ontario. So make sure you take a look, see what exactly your child is learning from this activity, and thank you for connecting with us.